Hey everyone, I'm sure as soon as you read the title of the video, you got a little bit tilted. I understand, I do. But before we jump into this obviously divisive viewpoint, I have to lay the groundwork for what I'm trying to do here. This video is not designed to tell you not to play other formats. This video is not doomsdaying anything. This video is not designed to make you feel like you shouldn't be playing the formats you enjoy. The perspective for this video will be from the eyes of a player not particularly invested in any given format. Today I'm here to tell you why Commander is the healthiest and safest format to buy into, hands down, not even close. Hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, remember to hit that like button, helps out a lot. Now for me to convince you of this, we're going to need to put each constructed format under a magnifying glass. Before we do that, however, I have to mention one last thing: limited formats. Always healthy, definitely not a part of this discussion. Whether you like to draft or play sealed, sets are designed to be fun for limited play. It's a one-time investment for a one-time payout. You know you aren't buying anything past the limited event, nothing beyond that is promised to you. Because of this, the health of limited is mostly stable set to set. I will say that if you want the quintessential limited experience, you should try making a cube. A cube is a relatively large collection of cards you acquire specifically to play limited with. You create your own booster packs out of the cards you decide to put in your cube. It's like creating your own custom Magic set, but you use whichever cards you want. If you want more information about cubing, which again is definitely the best limited experience you can get, there's a great video on that over at Tolarian Community College, link on the screen. With all that said, time to criticize some constructed formats. Yay? I cannot stress this enough. I am not trying to tell you that your favorite format isn't good. All I'm trying to say is that it isn't the healthiest or safest format in all of Magic. It can still be fun, it can still be amazing for that matter, but we're talking about the absolute best here, and to do that we can't be prideful. With that said, we'll begin with Standard. The flagship Magic the Gathering constructed format has gone through a lot in the last few years. From fetchland reprints slowing down the format to record times, to a stint where a singular deck dominated the format for over half a year. Standard has been dealt some blows. Add in these new historic bannings and you can't be surprised that morale in the format isn't all that healthy. And while morale doesn't necessarily make a format unhealthy or unsafe, the reason for that low morale does. Let me explain. For the first time since 1999, Standard bannings targeted multiple strategies, none of which were singularly oppressive to the format, or were responsible for destroying diversity. For the first time ever, Standard cards were banned to quote-unquote improve the format, not just diversify it. What this means is that these cards were banned because the format needed a change, not because they were too powerful. Fun fact, in the month before the ban, not only did Blue-White Spirits and Aetherworks Marvel perform well, but so did Delirium, Ban Aggro, Red-White Aggro, Mardu Vehicles, Esper Aggro, Blue-White Panharmonicon, Zombie Emerge, and others. Each of these decks posted multiple top 8 appearances in premier level events, and these weren't the only ones. So why am I telling you this? Because when Jace was banned in 2011, or Affinity in 2005, or Tolarian Academy and Windfall in 1998, they were banned due to dominating the format. They choked out all other strategies, removed diversity on an astronomical scale, which means that bans no longer mean what they used to, and Wizards is going to be more active in banning cards if they think Standard is getting stale. Protecting diversity is no longer the only reason a card gets banned in Standard anymore, and that makes the format unsafe, at least for now. Rotation's bad enough, and maybe these bans will be great long term, but without context or enough information to go on, the format is a question mark, which makes it unreliable, even for short-term play. Let's move on to Modern. This is going to be a bit easier to explain since there's precedent for my argument. Modern is one of the most unsafe formats in all of Magic, and the track record is right there to prove it. Wizards has shown that they aren't afraid to target high-priority strategies in the format, and while Summer Bloom and Second Sunrise are banned to help the overall health of the format, cards like Splinter Twin and Golgari Grave Troll are banned simply because they don't like those decks. In the most recent ban announcement, Wizards said straight up that Dredge was a degenerative mechanic and they didn't want it in Modern. I don't care what you think they meant, they literally said, quote, Dredge, the mechanic, and the deck has a negative impact on Modern by pushing the format too far toward a battle of sideboards. They literally said it had a negative impact on the format. You can try to spin that however you want, but they could as easily have replaced this with Arcbound Ravager, and cited Affinity as a mechanic that pushed the format too much toward a battle of sideboards. This is simplifying the situation, but my point stands. The Modern ban list isn't designed solely to keep the format diverse, it's designed to keep the format rotating, which leads to it being unsafe. Dredge wasn't dominating the format, Splinter Twin wasn't dominating the format, the numbers back me up. They were both a part of Modern, but not the entirety. Even with this most recent banning, Infect took a huge hit. Check the recent numbers. Infect's percentage of the meta is way down, while once again, Affinity tops the list. What if they want to change in 6 months, or a year? Will Ravager get banned, or Mox Opal? There's precedent for it after all. Just something to think about. While Modern is certainly diverse, I would not call it safe by any means. Vintage and Legacy go together, and this won't take long. There are 2 issues with both of these Eternal formats. First, the financial burden to enter them makes it not even close to worth it. A cheap Vintage deck relatively is anything below $5,000. Legacy? If you can get to around $1,000, you're doing really well. And sure, there are super budget options that can help you get into either format, and normally that would be just fine, but both Legacy and Vintage have a second similar problem. One deck being the boogeyman of the format. Going by past events, Legacy has a Miracles problem. Miracles has always been an issue, but recently the numbers look worse than normal, with no other strategy even hitting an 8% share of the format. If you dive into Magic Online results as well as Premier level paper play, you'll see a similar story. And sure, if you're playing with friends or at a local game store, maybe you won't see Miracles, but you'd be the exception, as it is everywhere, and much higher of a format share than anything in Standard or Modern pre or post the recent bans. Now, Legacy has dealt with Miracles before, and it's dealing with it now, so for all intents and purposes, I'm sure the community is used to it, but that doesn't make the format any more healthy or safe. You're asking players to invest a massive amount of money in a format that is statistically dominated by a single strategy. But this isn't even close to the problem Vintage is having. I didn't believe the numbers, so I asked a few Vintage geniuses I know, and it's true. Vintage is Ravager Shops. There are a few other decks that can put up a fight, but again, the numbers don't lie. Ravager Shops has created a nightmare of a format, and if the financial barrier to entry wasn't laughably high, which it is, this would also be a significant problem. As someone who grew up playing Vintage, I'm sorry, but the format is simply not inviting right now. Even if you have $10,000 lying around, just minimum. Definitely not healthy. Next up, Pauper, the constructed format where you have to build your entire deck using only commons. Unlike previous formats we've spoken about in this video, Pauper is diverse, with a low barrier to entry, bans aren't all that common, and even if a card is banned, your deck is all commons. Comparative to other formats, you'll be just fine. Sounds like the dream format, right? The problem with Pauper? Wizards of the Coast. The company refuses to acknowledge the format exists in paper. In their most recent Pauper ban announcement, Wizards said, quote, Magic formats typically only have changes to the banned and restricted list with each of the 4 major set releases each year. However, since Pauper is only a format on Magic Online, we have the ability to more quickly make changes in ways that affect all players since the legality of changes can be universally enforced. To this day, there is no paper Pauper ban list or even an acknowledgement that the format is played in paper. Is Chainer's Edict banned because it was never printed at common in paper, but it was in Vintage Masters Online? Welcome to the classic Pauper argument. And Wizards refuses to answer concretely. For a time, they even tried deleting the Pauper League on Magic Online to huge outrage. I'd love for Pauper to be the healthiest and safest format in Magic, but without its own universal ban list, I don't think so. Sorry. I know there are a few of you who might mention Frontier, so let me nip that in the bud. Frontier is too new to be healthy or safe. The format isn't even a year old yet. We don't have nearly enough data to know if it'll even survive. Is the format growing? Sure, and that's amazing. If you like it, more power to you. But until it's officially recognized, has a ban list, and way more data to look at, it's simply too green to be considered safe. On an even smaller note, does anyone still play Tiny Leaders? I don't think that format can be healthy or safe because it's solved, right? The number of players isn't increasing, stores aren't picking it up, and after 2 years, it still isn't officially recognized or supported. Tiny Leaders isn't going to make it, guys and gals. Definitely not safe. So what makes Commander better than all of these? The format has its own problems, right? Of course it does. Deadeye Navigator is still legal. Leovold was printed. That should be enough right there. Players always build varying degrees of competitive decks. Some cards are expensive, some commanders are expensive. All of this is true, and for any other format would be a serious problem. But Commander is the best format right now because each of these issues can be avoided completely. If you're playing Legacy and you want to build Miracles, there are some cards that you absolutely need to play the deck. You just do. The deck can't function without them. But if you don't have Machias the Unhallowed, you can still play Marin of Clan Neltoth. As a matter of fact, all you need to play Marin as your commander is Marin. The flexibility that Commander gives you is unlike any other constructed deck format, and that's why Commander isn't considered a constructed format. But in practicality, it is constructed. You still deck build before a match starts, you still have to follow the rules of the format, the rules of gameplay. The main difference is that in Commander, the flexibility you have is unmatched. Thanks to years of Wizards support, you can build anything you want in Commander, and I guarantee you there are cards to help you. In addition to the Commander-specific product that comes out every single year, Wizards still puts a massive amount of Commander cards in standard sets, limited edition products like Conspiracy and Master sets, and anywhere else that can fit Commander playables. If you want to talk about healthy and safe, Commander is the most supported format there is. It isn't going anywhere, the ban list is minimal, and if a card is banned, there are others to take its place. No destruction of a deck over a single card ban. I understand loving a format, I do, and if you love any of the formats we've talked about today, that's great, please keep loving them, because none of these formats are bad, they're not. The point of this video is to shine a light on Commander, because if we're being really honest with ourselves, it's clearly the most stable, most supported, most diverse format there is. If I were getting into Magic now and didn't have a particular allegiance to a format, I'd sure as heck choose Commander before anything else. In the end, you should play whatever you want, whichever format sates your brain hunger, makes you smile, fulfills you, all the above. But if you're trying to convince a friend to play Magic, Commander might be a good place to start, it's just a thought. I do hope you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments what you think. I'd really love to hear some feedback about this style of video, it would mean a lot. As always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Speaking of Commander, it's pretty dang easy to get into the format when you can buy an entire deck, right now, already made. Commander 2016 has been out a few months already, and the prices are more than reasonable. You can get Breya and Invent Superiority for a cool $35. One of the better Commander 2016 products, this is a great choice for any robot lover. Not a fan? How about Entropic Uprising with Yidris? Solid deck, only $31 shipped right to you, much cheaper than the big box stores if that's where you're used to buying them. Click the links on the screen for great prices and to help the channel. Gotta love some Commander goodness, enjoy.